Well, hello, how are you all?
Hello, Professor.
Can you guys do me a favor and turn on your cameras? I would love to see who I'm talking with. Hi,
Hi.
how are
Okay.
you?
Good.
Welcome to the class and welcome to the semester. I'm so excited to be teaching you guys this semester. I think it's going to be a fun class.
I hope this is a fun class too.
Yeah, I try to make it fun, you know? Yeah. I'm just going to go and open up Canvas here on my side and get rolling. Let's see, I need a new tab. Nice, cool. And I also want to see if I can maybe change my view here so I can get more of a gallery view instead of what I've got right now. Here we go. Yeah, nice. Well, greetings, everybody. I'm Joe Hines. I'll be the professor in the class this semester. This is my 6th or 7th year teaching this class. I try to make it a lot of fun. I especially try to make it something that everybody's going to benefit from in terms of what you're going to learn. As we go into things tonight, I think you'll see how important a class this can really be for everybody. And I thought before we go on a whole lot farther, I'd like to have you guys introduce yourselves. So you'll want to unmute and we'll just kind of go around. And Frederick and Zane, if you guys could maybe turn your cameras on, and Esmeralda, that'd be great. And gosh, Zoe, how about we start with you?
Yeah, sure. My name is Zoe. Last name is Liu. I'm from China. I was interested in want to finish my accounting social degree. That's why I want to finish all course.
Yes. Yeah, this is going to be a good class. When you're finished, what's your plan? What are you going to be doing?
I want to go accounting firm for practice after I done all course because I love the numbers.
Are you planning to stay here in the United States? Are you eventually going back to China, or what are your plans, Zoe?
Yeah, I'm gonna to stay United States. I'm USA citizen.
Yay!
Of course.
Good. I've got a friend who has a very successful CPA firm. Maybe I can introduce you to him later as you start looking for work. His name is Jim. Jim and I went to high school together. So as you can tell, it wasn't yesterday. But
wow, that's fantastic.
Be happy to do that.
Yes.
Happy to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Christina, how you doing?
Hi, good, thank you. I've actually taken this course before many years ago, but I'm coming back into the workforce. So times have changed, terminology, the way you communicate has changed, especially with social media. So I'm kind of just coming back to update on how to write letters, soft skills, communication.
That's good. You'll definitely get all of that plus some more too in here.
Good.
I think that'll work out nice for you. So you've been out for a while then. I haven't worked for a few years.
Yeah, I was a stay-at-home mom for 13 years.
That's a big job all by itself.
Yes, and then coming back into the workforce, definitely a different wheelhouse compared to when I was prior.
Yeah, yeah, and it's definitely a different world. Um, are you guys all on LinkedIn, by the way?
I am.
You are. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I've got 2,300 level 1 connections, and that would give you access to see who I'm connected with, and if there's anybody that you think you'd like to meet professionally, in terms of building out your network, and maybe somebody there would be looking for what you can do, maybe that'd help you along.
I'd appreciate that.
You betcha. Hi, Elizabeth. How's it going?
Hi, good, thank you.
Welcome to the class.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, my name is Elizabeth. I'm from Mexico City. I've been living here for 14 years now.
Okay.
So, I've been taking care of my family, husband and 2 kids.
Okay.
And now I decided to just do something for me.
Good
get a
for you.
job, or I don't know, something to help.
That's great. I was in Mexico City, but just the airport this summer.
Hi.
I went to Spain. So we went, I don't know why, it was the cheapest route we could find. We had to go to Mexico City to fly to Madrid. Figure that one out.
Yeah, well, there's nothing to see around the airport, so you have
No.
to go outside to see more good stuff there.
Yeah, I've been to Mexico a bunch of times. I've been to Cancun very often.
Oh, my favorite place. Yeah.
It's really pretty there. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so pretty.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Arlen, am I pronouncing your name right?
It's actually Arlene.
Arlene. Okay. Well, it's nice to
Yeah.
meet you, Arlene. Tell me about you.
I just graduated high school and this is like my first year in college.
Welcome to the big leagues.
Thank you. I would, I don't know much else to say.
No, it's all good. This is your first semester in college. So how do you feel? Are you kind of overwhelmed, or are you feeling excited about it, or what,
I'm feeling mostly excited. I do have some courses that already are giving me assignments that I have to finish them like in a few weeks. But other than that, I keep myself paced and I'm gonna be overwhelmed, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be okay.
If I can help you figure the ropes out, you let me know, okay?
Yes, that would be still helpful.
Yeah, awesome. Hi, Esmeralda.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I just got in from mucking, so that's why I was in a hurry trying to set everything up. I was having
Okay.
some trouble with my camera.
How far did you walk?
Not walk, muck.
Muck.
Yes, I have horses. So
So you were mucking out the stalls.
yes,
Yuck.
exactly.
That's yucky.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm here in Menifee, and I just I got out of the Marine Corps.
Oh,
Yeah, I spent 13 years in the Marine Corps, and then it's been a few years. I got out in 2015, but I've been mostly stay-at-home mom. And I have 2 kids that I homeschool, and we have a 5-acre ranch where we have the horses and stuff. And I got into the marketing just because I've had a lot of information with marketing. Everything from, I've already been building websites. I've been doing things for friends, including photography and just a variety of like digital type of media, and building logos, vectors, different things.
wow, good for you. So what do you hope to do? Do you want to go work for an agency, or do you want to open up your own business, or what are you thinking?
I am interested in opening up a boutique marketing business where I just focus on a very niche market. I'm still.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. You finish.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's just I'm trying to like narrow it down to a very small market, and I got a lot of friends that I want to help out with that.
Yeah.
That have already like have businesses, so I kind of like I'm going down that route. Just to something for myself to sustain.
Well, that's awesome. I spent 9 years operating my own small little marketing company. I've
That's
been in
awesome.
marketing for 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I build websites and do all of that stuff. So if you'd like to kick your idea around about, good ways to start a business like that, I probably can help you avoid some of the pitfalls.
Absolutely. I would love to pick your brain.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Great. Thank you.
You betcha. Hey, Marcellus, what's going on?
Hello. I just came out of high school too. I just graduated this summer.
Where did you go to high school?
Loera.
Loera.
Cool.
Cool. Right on. And so this is your first semester in. So how are you feeling about being in college?
School, and I guess I feel like excited about it.
It's school, so you're as excited as it's gonna be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll try to make this a cool experience. I'm sure you're gonna get a ton out of this. I promise you. Zane, talk to me, Zane. What's going on?
Hello.
Hey.
I just came back from a 3-hour English class, so I'm feeling energetic.
Yeah.
Kidding.
After 3 hours,
No.
you're feeling energetic. I think I would feel like maybe
No,
comatose.
that was pure sarcasm. I am
Okay.
drained. Yeah. My name is Zane. I grew I lived and grew up in Baghdad, Iraq.
No kidding.
And yeah. And
Wow.
so I was a war baby.
Yeah, you were.
And now I live in California. In my high school years, I dabbled in a little bit of drop shipping and Facebook marketing.
Okay.
And then after high school, I took like a year off college just to focus on money. I just wanted to make a bunch of money. But instead of that, I just got a huge load of knowledge, and I feel like knowledge is like the essence to, and it leads you to the path of making a lot of money. So
yeah, you can
I
never go
have
wrong learning things.
yeah, definitely. So I have little bits and pieces of what it's like to run a business, but I told myself, let me just go back to college, possibly take a business class. Here I am, and see what comes up. Your
Good.
net worth is your network. Your network is your net worth. There we go.
Very cool. As I was telling Esmeralda, if you want to kick some stuff around about your business ideas, I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
I'd love to. I'd love
All right,
to.
that's the plan. Hey, Paul.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. You?
Good. Well, I guess it's my turn to introduce myself.
Yeah,
right?
man. Tell us all about Paul.
Okay. Well, it's been 14 years that I've been away from going to school.
Okay.
So it's been a long time. I was more used to flipping the textbooks, and now everything's online. So it took me a while to learn this, and I'm still learning all the process of Cengage and all these new Mindtap things.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can catch up soon.
Okay.
I'm still working full time. I've been working at IT company for now about 8-9 years.
Okay.
And doing a sales, and I wanted to go back, and I decided to go back to school and learn more about business, because what I do is I sell products, but also have to manage a lot of financial things for customers and make sure everything's moving correctly.
Yep.
And a lot of times, because my knowledge is so limited on business sector, so I can only give them answers based on books or my experience,
Right.
which kind of it makes me feel like I'm not giving them enough support that they need.
Sure.
So I decided to go back, and now here I am.
Well, good for you. You're making a great decision, especially as you start to build that career in business. You're going to notice that in order to get a promotion and to go up the levels in management, you're going to have a degree behind you.
Yes. That's what I learned.
Yeah. So you did the right thing. It's like going to the gym. You have to work out a few times a week, to start to see any growth, and this is kind of like what college is.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, good. Hey, Frederick, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So tell us about yourself.
I'm currently a project engineer for a general contractor.
Okay.
Construction. I've been wanting to kind of move up the ladder, I guess, go into management on the management side, maybe eventually run my own business. So I been just trying to get more knowledge in that, working on my AA and construction management. So,
Great, very cool. What do you do for the firm that you work for the construction firm? What's your job actually?
I'm a project engineer, so I do a lot of the coordinations, a lot of the engineering, a lot of it's a lot of computer and paperwork and sitting 8 to 10 hours a day. So.
Wow, that's a long day. And then you go to school after that. So kudos to you, man, because it takes a lot of stamina for that, you know? I'm sure it's a long day for you.
Yeah, it is.
Hang in there. It'll all pay off. Armani, can you turn on your camera so we can see you as you
Hello.
introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have a
Okay.
face cam.
Well, talk to us, buddy. Tell us about you.
I just came out of high school and I took this class because I wanted to know a little bit more about business, see what it's about, see if I wanted to step my foot into, like
Yeah.
into business.
Awesome.
And
So this will be a
yeah.
good way to look at it in terms of how to, what's it like to work in a company and how does the communication work within the company. But I'd suggest that you take a few more classes and keep going with it. If this was your only view of what it's like to manage in business, you wouldn't really be getting an accurate picture of it because this is just one slice of the pie and it's not the whole pie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. But very cool. Where'd you go to high school?
Savannah High School.
Okay. Bunch of folks from Anaheim in here tonight. Forgive me, you, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Ureiro? I don't know. I'm not sure how to say that. Ureiro, but I don't know how to pronounce that.
Oh, that's my last name.
Oh, okay. What is your first? What is your
Caesar.
first?
Caesar, sorry.
Hey, Caesar. Welcome into the class. You actually hit me up yesterday, right? About adding in.
Correct. I was confusing this class with another class. I think it was called personal business financing or something like that. But
Okay.
I'm actually taking both classes.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Really good. Well, great. And I told you a little bit about me already, but I'll go a little deeper. I've been in business for 30 years. I started teaching in 2009, just because I've always liked working with students. I like sharing what I know and what I've experienced over all those years. You're going to hear from me how it really goes down versus what's in the book. Sometimes the people that write the books, I found out, never actually have been there and actually done the work. So they're academics, and they sort of know a lot of theory. I'll kind of tell you what really goes on as we go through here. As you'll see in a few minutes, there's a project in this class. And what I would like for all of you to get out of this, if you already have some pretty clear-cut ideas about what you want to be doing career-wise, but there's the class project is a project that'll go throughout the semester, and it's going to help you guys who don't have a career in mind yet figure out what that is. A lot of us are first year in college, so this is the perfect time to be thinking about, where do I want to go when I'm done? Why am I here? So that's kind of what the project is about. We'll get into that in more detail later. But I created that project because when I started to work, I went through a lot of years where I felt like I wasn't really in the right spot, doing the right thing. And the problem was, when I was in college, I had never really taken the time to figure it out. Somebody said, go in that direction, so I did. Does that sound familiar to any of you guys? That's a
Yes.
big mistake. Because if it's not you, authentically you, it's really hard to be happy doing something that where you don't belong, you know? There's an old saying that goes, find a job that you love to do and you'll never have to work. You know what, do you understand what I mean with that? Working is like taking a boulder and pushing it up a hill. It's all miserable and it's all hard. That's because you're in the wrong job, in the wrong career. But if you find yourself doing what you love and what you're naturally good at, and you're really happy, then it's not work anymore. It's just a great way to be. So hopefully I'll help guide you into that. Let's go into Canvas. I'm going to share my screen and we'll open up Canvas here. Okay, so I think I have to make this wider here. Here we go. So this is what you guys should see in Canvas when you open the class up. Have you guys all been into Canvas yet? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Good, good. Okay, so I'm showing you right now the home page. The home page and this other page called modules are pretty much identical, but everything that you're going to need, you can find right here in these two pages. And then this is the syllabus. So this is probably the goodest place as any to start kind of getting the feel for what are we going to be doing in this class this semester. So let's start here. First of all, I want you guys to know that I want to hear from you, you know, as we go along. If you guys are stuck or if you're wondering about things or if you just want to share ideas or whatever, I mean, I'm in this because I love working with students. So I want to hear from you guys. So this is my personal cell phone number. Okay. You can text me, you can call me, you know, don't call me at 2 in the morning, but, you know, call me at reasonable hours and I'd love to hear from you. This is my email address at the college. I check that once a day or so. So if you've sent me an email and I haven't gotten right back to you, it's because I haven't gotten to that yet. But I'll get to you. Let's look at the course description. There's 3 major goals for this class. Learn the mechanics and the appearance of writing, just in general, great business documents like business letters and memos, and really important for you guys coming up, resumes and reports, okay? The next bullet point is learn modern internet-based communication technology. Some of you guys have been telling me that you're already good at this, like, you know, Esmeralda builds websites. So that's perfect. But we'll look at that. We'll look at, you know, vlogs and podcasts and, you know, social media and other things that have all become really important, you know, in business over the last 15 years or so. And then we're going to learn to write concise, well-written reports. And your class project is going to be your exercise in writing a great report. And then learning how to present it. You're going to write this report and you're going to then come back in at the end of the semester and share your report with us, just like I'm doing tonight for lecture. You guys will all have a chance to share what you guys did and, you know, what you thought about as you went through the process of this class project. So the required text is The Essentials of Business Communication with Mindtap for Blackboard. Have you guys all got the book yet?
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Yes.
Right on. Okay. Having the Mindtap piece is super important because all of the homework is done here. Okay. Well, not all of it. The class project part is not. Everything else, yes. Let's look at some key dates. I'm sure nobody's going to want to drop this class, but the last day that you could withdraw without requiring a W would be the 6th of September. If it gets really late in the semester and you're just figuring like, man, I just don't have the stamina to finish this, the last day to get out with a W would be the 14th of November. I'm going to finish this class up with you guys the 11th of December, 2 weeks before Christmas. And then we'll have a final this week of the 11th. Okay, so you can go look at this if you're ever wondering where we are and what are the key dates. Here's what we've got in terms of what you guys are going to be working on over the semester. All of the different things that we'll be doing are in this assignment column. Where you go to do it, or basically how, is in this column here where it says method. How many of these things is in this column. How many points, like this, and then the total. So I'll show you guys in a minute, but there's a number of weekly chapter homework assignments. They're in Mindtap. They don't take very long to do. And they're just a way for you guys to review what the key points in the chapter were. So I'll give you 10 points each for those. Max points for a total of max 130. It grades automatically in Mindtap, which as a teacher, I love. It just gets it off of my back. So you'll know immediately after you turn it in how well you've done. There's these little chapter quizzes every week. Again, it's just for that one chapter that you did, and it's just a great way to review how well did you understand what we covered. 13 of those, 10 points each. There are some writing workshops. These things are little, when you go into Mindtap and you look at these assignments that are all called writing workshops, they're all little videos. They kind of put you in the middle of a situation, right? And then they're going to ask you a series of questions as you go through each stage of the video. Like maybe they break the video up in 3 or 4 parts, and maybe 3 or 5 minutes in, they'll ask you a couple of questions that you should be able to figure out based on what you've just learned. Then a little bit further in, and they're going to ask you some more questions and so on. So this says we've just covered a bunch of theory. Let's see how well you can use what we've been talking about. So if the homework and the chapter are all theory, the writing workshops are, do you get it? Like, can you use it? Do you know how to put it to work in a real world situation? So that's that. So homework, quizzes, and writing workshops are the 3 things that you're going to do in Mindtap. Now these things here, all these that are in blue right now, whoops, not that far. This, right there. Those pieces right there are the pieces to the class project. So we're going to do this class project in stages, and I'm going to be kind of guiding you guys through what I want you to do in each phase, so that at the end of this, you can review everything that you wrote up during these 5 pieces and then put together a final paper, so that these phases that I came up with in terms of how to approach the concept of picking a career for your life are meaningful to you. Okay, then there's an oral presentation. We'll have 2 midterms that are worth 100 points each, and then this final exam for 150. The exams also are done in Canvas. There's an app that I'll show you in a few minutes that'll show you, that'll have like a multiple choice test built into it. And when you get the test, you'll have a week to complete it. Okay, they're pretty easy. If you've been doing great on these things in here, if you've been doing great here, then the tests are going to be a piece of cake. But if you're having a hard time in here, I want you guys to call me and say, hey dude, I'm having a hard time. I need you to help me with this, this, or that. Then I'm in a better position as your instructor to jump in and actually teach. Okay, I want to hear from you guys. I'm here to help. Okay, if you don't do that, it's your money, it's your opportunity that you lost. You're paying tuition, right? So you're paying me. If I went to work and just kind of sat there and didn't do anything all day and you were my employer, I don't think you'd be too stoked. So put me to work. You guys follow what I'm telling you?
Yep.
All right,
Yes.
it's all on you. So letter grades, pretty simple. 90% possible of all the points in the class is an A, 80 to 89% is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, 60 to 69 is a D. Anything other than 60%, sorry, try again, okay? None of you guys should be anywhere in here, okay? You guys are in college, which tells me that you guys are all A, B, or minimally C level students. I think, here's what I believe. I'm starting all of you guys with an A right now. Every one of you guys has an A+ as of this moment. Your challenge is to hold on to it. Okay? My goal is to give you guys an A at the end of the semester. That's really what I want. You just have to work with me to get us there, okay? So I'm partnering with each one of you guys so that we get to that A. Does that sound good?
Perfect.
Love that. Okay. Student responsibilities. You guys are responsible for. I'm responsible for putting this information out, keeping you guys engaged, making sure that you're learning everything I have to teach you and that you're enjoying the class. Your responsibility is to stay up to speed. All right. That means we have weekly assignments. So I want you guys to stay current every week. All right. Do the stuff on time because this class you're going to see builds on itself. Last week's stuff you're going to need to know to do this week. And next week, you better have the last two classes, under your belt so that you're ready to do week 3 and so on. Okay. You've got my contact information. And the rest of the stuff you can read on your own, okay? Let's go back to home. Okay. I mentioned it that when we do the quizzes, they're online. You see this thing here called quizzes, this little link here?
Yes.
If you click on it, it opens up and you can see that I've already got the 3 exams sitting here. Now I have to change the dates. These are the exams from, last time I ran this class a year ago. I'll revise these, but when you go to take the quiz, you're going to come in here and click on it and open it up and you'll have an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever, to take a 70 question multiple choice test. You guys shouldn't need anything like that amount of time. But I'm going to stretch it out so that anybody who needs that amount of time has it available, okay? If any of you guys have something called an IEP, or if any of you guys need a little bit of special help academically, I want you to let me know privately, okay? And I'm here to help you. We'll work on that together to get you through. I actually have a daughter who's in that situation. She's smart as a whip, but she learns differently from other students. So she needs a little bit of help. Maybe one of you or 2 of you are like that too. Just come and let me know and we'll come up with some sort of a solution, okay? So there we go with that. When you want to know how are we doing in here in terms of our grades, you come in here and click. And right now there's obviously nothing here, but there will be over time. And you'll see it, in terms of just for your own grade and nothing else. It's private information. Let's talk about the way this page is structured. Obviously, you guys found this because you're all here. So that's awesome. If I scroll down, because I'm also recording this class for the rest of our classmates who are going to be joining us on, online and not live, meaning sorry, that doesn't make sense. The rest of the class is taking this class asynchronously, meaning that we're going to be together, you guys, and some other folks are going to come in and do it whenever they can during the week. It's not showing in here, but you will see that there's a section in here called class lectures. It doesn't show up yet because there's nothing recorded in here yet, but there will be right in here a place where you can come and pick it up. Oh, here it is, videos, class lecture. So you would click in here and chapter 1 will be right here, and you can watch this on its own page. So I'm gonna embed the video that I'm making in Zoom tonight on this page, and all you would need to do is click that video and view it right here, okay? That's the plan. If it turns out that the files are too large for Canvas to hold them, then I'm gonna have to come up with plan B. And my plan B would be to give you guys a Google folder in my Google Drive account, and you guys will have access and you can then download those video files to your desktops. I put some other things in here too for you guys. I know this is your first semester, so maybe you're not quite, comfortable yet using Canvas. There are some Canvas tutorials here. So if you sit here and watch through these, you see I've embedded it here. If you sit here and watch through these, everything that you'd ever could possibly know about using Canvas will be in this video. When you have to go and register for Mindtap, the instructions for doing that are right here. If you need to reach technical support because something is not working with a Cengage assignment in Mindtap, the way to take care of that is not to call me because I can't do anything about it. You'd have to call the technical support folks at Cengage. So you'd open this up, load Cengage technical support in a new window. You'd sign in using your username that you have because you've got an account now, and then move forward, okay? When you wanna, you don't really need this. I've given you a better way to approach this later. You guys are all pretty familiar, obviously, with using Zoom. If you're struggling to use Zoom, I've put in some tutorials here too. How to set Zoom up, how to use it, how to set up a webcam, how to set up an external mic, etc. Just to make sure that you guys are comfortable with that, with the technology part of the class. Then, because this is a writing course, I've given you access to a dictionary here. So there you go. Now we've come down to the class project. So let's check this out. To begin with, I've given you a little video. You guys can watch this on your own. You don't need me to do that with you, but I would like for you to read it because it talks exactly about this project, okay? But let's talk about the background on this. The big thing here is that you guys are gonna spend 70% of your waking hours as an adult at work. 70% of your waking hours will be at work. That means that you have got to pick your career well. Because if you don't like what you're doing and you're doing it with 70% of your life, how shitty is that? Right? Yeah. Really crappy. So I put this together because I found myself in that position and I want to help you guys avoid that. I found as I was thinking about, thinking about life and thinking about choosing a career, what are the important things? Well, one is there are factors of success, meaning different people evaluate themselves and say, hey, am I a success in life or not, in different ways. What's true for Christina is going to be different for Zane. It's going to be different for Arlene. You guys are all different people. But I want you to see what, generally people think of as these success factors. And then on top of that, I want you to think about yourself and say, well, yeah, these are the things that people say are important. But when I think about me and what makes me tick, which of these are important to you personally? So that when you write this stuff for the course, I want you reflecting back on what did you just learn about? But much more importantly, what does it mean to you as a human in this earth today? And what does it mean to you for the decision that you're trying to make about where are you going with your life? That's a great place to start a career path or a career search, thinking about what do you want in life. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Okay. Number 2, what are your values? Look, career success could mean I'm getting a promotion every 2 to 3 years. Well, that could be a success factor, but the personal value to you is, are you a person that's driven by money and that's what you really are into as a person? Or would you rather have more time with your family? Because out there in the real world, and some of you have already learned this, you can't have everything you want in life. It's a trade-off. When we were little and we went to the playground, more time spent on the swings meant less time on the slide. And that's the same with everything else in life going forward. You want to make more money? The company that's paying you is going to say, fine, we'll give you that nice big 6-figure income, but we're going to expect a whole lot more out of you. And in order for you to deliver that, it means you're going to have to turn your back a lot more often on not going to those kids' Little League games and not being there for your spouse when he or she needs you sometimes, because the company sent you out of town, because somebody called a meeting and yeah, you told little Johnny that you were going to be at his game. TS, pal, we need you at work right now. So, values, right? Sorry?
So true.
Yeah. So, some understanding what makes you tick from a values perspective is really important. Because if you decide early in life that what you want personally is time with your family and really deep emotional connects with your kids, then maybe you don't want that 6-figure income. Maybe you don't want to do that career climb thing. That was a choice that I made. And I think I chose right for me. That's my value set. Then we look at so, you've kind of by now, these 5 success factors, your success factors, your values, your personality. Then we come to this thing called the Myers-Briggs personality test. Have you guys ever done Myers-Briggs?
I have.
Who else?
I have.
Okay. So some of you have not, and a few of you have. The really cool thing about this Myers-Briggs is it's a way to help you identify what kind of a person are you. And Myers-Briggs then comes back and says, based on your score on this test, this is a group of careers that might be really, really good based on the kind of person that you've identified yourself to be. Well, that's great, because now you can think about all this plus some really near in, occupations that Myers-Briggs says are good for you. And you can choose 1 or 2 or 3 of them to evaluate first. How some people evaluate what they ought to be doing is, hey, if I were to, let's say that I was into transportation, okay? I want to start a transportation company. Well, I've got 2 paths in mind. I could go into the horse and buggy business, or I could go into the, digital solar battery driven Tesla type automobiles. Horse and buggy, Tesla. Well, the occupational projections and the market projections for horse and buggy are nil. But if I look down the road into the future, occupational projections, job opportunities in that field are going to be huge. So these are all government reports. And I want you guys to be thinking about, based on what people have projected for these different occupations, which one of these is most appealing to you? And then the last piece is, okay, I've kind of worked through all of this, the success, the personality, you know, the values, the Myers-Briggs. I've chosen something that I think I'm pretty interested in. What do you do next? You've got so many years between now and the day that you're hopefully going to be interviewing for a job in that field. What are the things that you need to start doing today to make sure that when you start that, you know, resume shopping, job interviewing situation, you're really attractive to those employers? How do you prepare? How do you start preparing yourself now to do that later? So I took a long time thinking about putting this together when I put it together, and I can tell you that I've run this now with all the classes that I teach in this class for the last 4 or 5 years, and the students really dig it, especially the ones who aren't really sure right now what they want to do, because it definitely will help you figure that out. For those of you guys who think you already know what you want to do, but you've never gone through this process, I want you to kind of just in your own imagination, wipe the slate clean. This is going to give you an opportunity to kind of maybe reevaluate the direction that you thought you wanted to go in comparison with all of the other opportunities that maybe you simply never have thought about before. Because one thing is true amongst all of you guys, you're all young, and this is the time of life to do that. Okay, so that's what I hope you get out of this. Okay, so these are the assignment due dates. This first piece, the success factors, are going to be due on September 10th. Okay, the personal values on October 1st, Myers-Briggs a week later on October 8th, and then 2 weeks later we come back with these projections. And then what do you have to do between now and then? The career prep, November 12th, and then the final paper, the 29th. And then we'll do in-class presentations the 29th, the week of the 29th, and the week of the 3rd. Okay? Pretty clear?
Understood.
Right on. Okay. Let's see. I thought I had, you know what? I'm going to take this off of student view for a second because there's something else in here I want to show you, and it's not showing up on the student view, and I thought it would be. That's why. Okay. And okay, we're back in student view. So every week, there will be a section like this in Canvas. This is the slides. This is a link to the homework. And this is the chapter quiz. So we link to the homework. Going into Cengage. I'll just log in. Oh, yeah, okay, because I'm in student mode right now. Rats. Okay, well, leave student view. Now can I do it? No. it doesn't have my ID in as a student, only as an instructor. Oh, this was, okay, that was that page. That was the support services link. Maybe I have to do this different. Too many tabs open. Okay. So here we go. To be successful in today's changing workplace, this is something that we're going to cover in the lecture. You have to understand the importance of effective and professional communication. This set of problems tests your knowledge of a communication process, effective listening techniques, and the importance of nonverbal communication, and methods for improving communication in a diverse workplace. So they're going to ask you some questions. This is all there is to this homework assignment. You're going to have 3 opportunities each to complete this assignment, okay? That means that, you know, if you basically pick your options, et cetera, and go and complete it. Then when you're done, you say, okay, I'm done, and grade the assignment now. Pretty straightforward? Okay, good. And the same thing is true with, you know, the quiz too. Same exact process, you guys. So we're basically ready to move into the lecture. Do you guys want to take 10 minutes and do a bio breaker or something, or do you want to just jam on into it?
I had a question.
Yeah, please.
I purchased my book on Amazon, which I was reading as you're speaking, not to purchase it through Amazon. So is this, I don't know if you can see, but is this what I need to purchase from the bookstore? From the Fullerton bookstore?
I think so. I can't really see it very well, Christina.
Okay, well, it says Cengage Unlimited, 1 term, 4 months.
Yeah.
And it's $119.99.
Yeah, that's what you need. Can you return the other one to Amazon?
Yeah, I just rented it, so I'll just send it back. But the content of like I don't need a book, everything is in that Cengage.
The book is in Cengage, everything's in Cengage.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
How do you guys feel about using digital textbooks?
I'm fine with it.
I hate it.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan, but you know, I think that's the way the world's going. And you know, did you guys see the UN report that came out about 2 weeks ago about code red for the environment?
No.
Oh yeah, what was that about?
Oh well, it's the United Nations saying that we're in deep doo-doo with regards to the climate, and we have got to make it a top level priority all over the world, or we're sunk. Like game over.
Wow.
Well,
Like game over.
Well, I have a question about the Mindtap. Does Mindtap, it includes the textbook, right? So we don't have to buy the
That's
textbook?
correct. Yeah, that's right, Arlene.
Okay, because I just wasted like $100 on like a class for textbooks.
Can you return it?
No, I didn't purchase the textbook for this class. I just.
Oh, you're gonna need it. You're really gonna need it, or you won't be able to do any of the homework.
Oh, so I need to buy the textbook for the class?
You have to buy the textbook with the Mindtap access, because to get into Mindtap, you need an access code. And the code only comes with the book.
Oh, so like in the syllabus as like Mindtap access, including textbook, we buy the textbook there too?
You have to go on the Fullerton website, the bookstore on the Fullerton College website.
Yes, you can buy it all as one bundle. They also offer a thing called an unlimited package because mostly Fullerton College is using all Cengage, which means that for almost the same price, you could get all of your books for all your classes.
So I had the same problem. I thought that I was getting a certain ISV number for this course, but what you have to do is to buy the Cengage code so you can have the unlimited access to Mindtap, and then from the modules, you'll have to register your class.
Yes.
And you will have all the textbook and the activities for the homework.
Yeah. So if we go back to the syllabus, if I can find it.
And the bookstore doesn't have it. So I want to buy it and they couldn't find it.
You can get it directly from Cengage.
Yeah.
And so to access Cengage, just use, for instance, how to register for Cengage. I can take you here. This will tell you how to register once you have the code. Sorry, that's the wrong link. Well,
I just clicked on Mindtap access and it told me to sign up for a Cengage account, and then
sweet.
it just showed me the book that I'm required.
Great. Okay, so do it that way. Did you guys all understand? Do you want to repeat that?
Yeah, so if you go ahead and click on load Mindtap access, it would bring you to the Cengage login page. Make an account, or if you already have one, just sign in. And you'll be prompted to buy the book from there. It's like $100 flat.
So there we go. I'm just kind of showing you guys the process. Now my view, once I get past this, might be different. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, it says I'm back in that damn student view again. God. Let me see if I can. Do you want to share screen and walk us through that so everybody can see it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I think you have access to do that.
You have it disabled.
I do. All right, then let me figure that out. Participants. Well, here, I'll stop share. Share screen. Multiple participants. Okay, go ahead.
I appreciate you. Okay, and then, boop, wrong screen. Share screen, it's gonna be number 1. Okay. So drag that there. Okay, so here I am about to purchase it, but if you go to right here, Mindtap access, load Mindtap, and then you would have to sign in or like make an account any minute now. Brings you to the dashboard. There we go.
There you go.
Your instructor has selected the following materials for this course. And then this is the book, Essentials of Business Communication. Continue. And then the unlimited thing that you were talking about, they also have it.
Yeah. Sweet.
Right here.
Yeah.
It's $100.
Yeah.
Well, when I clicked that first option, it didn't allow me to have Mindtap. I had to go to the completely unlimited. Yeah, that one that you're
Oh, right here?
Yeah, to the right, that one.
The one on the far right.
On the far right.
The one with the yellow at the bottom.
Yeah. I purchased that middle one or that first one, and then it did not work. I needed to buy the entire unlimited.
Okay.
Oh yeah, this option does not include access to your online homework platform.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. Then that's what you're gonna have to do is the 120.
Yeah.
That's the That's the joy of going to college. It's good that money grows on trees, right?
Oh God,
Oh,
I'd
it's
have
wonderful.
a few acres of it.
So by
Uh.
the end of the week, we should have the textbook bought already?
Yes, and well, yeah, because the homework's going to be due Monday night.
Dios mío, okay.
Por supuesto, tienes que comprar ahora.
Oh my gosh.
Is there a way to request like a trial in order to let to catch up with financial assistance and for those students that still
Yeah, I think you can do that. It's like a 10-day grace period or something.
Yeah, you might want to email Cengage and see if you can get at least a trial in the meantime while.
Oh, actually, okay. I just clicked the temporary access code right above buy now, and I'm already here.
Oh, there you go.
So
So
there you
yeah,
go.
thank you for that, Esmeralda.
So if any of you guys are in a jam for a couple of weeks, that'll be at least a stepping stone for you. But there's going to come a time in about 2 weeks when it shuts off and you're going to have the book. So, okay.
Hello. I have a question. So when
Okay.
I'm trying to create a Cengage account, it says institution. Like what do I put for this box?
Fullerton Community College.
Oh, okay. I'm dumb.
Right. Not a worry. Okay. So let's go back to, thanks for sharing. I'll go back to my stuff.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So, okay. Do you guys use Macs or PCs?
PC for me.
PC.
Mac.
PC.
Yeah, I love my Mac. I switched from a PC a few years ago.
I tried. I could not get used to the difference in the buttons and everything, the commands. Couldn't do it.
Wow, I love it. But it's definitely, you know, a preference thing. All right. Well, this thing is trying to open. Let's see. I want to use the one that's in my PowerPoint, not the one that's on the screen. Why can't I open this? Oh, there it is. It did open. All right. So over all the years that I've taught this course, I've kind of played with these slides a little bit and added some stuff to them. All right, business communication in the digital age. This is why this class is important. Your ability to move forward in your business careers, or really in any career, is totally based on how well do you communicate. Because communication is all about leadership. And if you want to make money, you have to be a leader. There are lots of Indians and not very many chiefs out there. So, you know, when the minute that you start going to work, everything about you is what they start sizing up. They meaning the powers that be, okay? How do you dress? How do you carry yourself? How do you speak? You know, what does your, you know, completed work look like? All of that and more creates an image in their mind about who you are and how competent, how able you are. And it's not necessarily fair, but it is just the way the world is. So in this class, we're going to be spending a lot of time working on all these little details, because what I want nothing more for you guys than to hit the ground running, okay? And the world's gotten a whole lot more complex. You know, when I started, well, look, I got a degree in marketing and I finished my degree in '89. That was back in the horse and buggy days. And there was no internet. There were no smartphones or cell phones of any kind. There was no social media. None of the things that you guys take for granted existed. I could not have gotten a degree in marketing based on what I learned in school today. I couldn't have gotten a job today based on what I learned in school. So that's just how important all of this stuff is. Plus, on top of all of that, they expect you to still know the old world stuff too. So being able to communicate in all those ways non-verbally. Do you know what I mean by non-verbal communication? What does that mean to you guys?
Body language,
Yeah,
facial expression.
yeah,
The way you behave in society.
yes, yeah. You guys ever heard the word personal brand? A person has their own brand.
Yes.
What does that mean, Esmeralda? What is that concept all about?
It's basically you build like your almost like your Facebook profile where people start getting to know you for what you normally represent. So you know, like me, everybody knows me, I'm the ranch girl. Even Tractor Supply calls me if they need to rehome some animals.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. So but yeah, your personal brand is just like knowing like Nike or Amazon, what they're known for, it's what you're known for.
Yeah, or what people think you are. Like
Yes.
you are that ranch girl,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Now let's say that you've got a speech impediment, like Joe Biden, who stutters, who's overcome his stutter mostly, had to work really hard at it. Let's say that you've got one and it's really, really difficult for you to manage it. So you go to work and you stutter. There are some people out there who are pretty ignorant and they'll think, oh, that person's not very intelligent.
Yeah.
You might be the smartest person in the world. You just can't. There's a motor, you know, there's an electrical misfire happening in your brain that's causing you to stutter. If people think that you're not very smart because of something that you do, whether you're brilliant or not, your brand right now is that person's not very smart.
Yeah.
That's really unfortunate. And mostly we can control an awful lot of that. And that's also what this course is about, is learning how to send off those messages, those cues, social cues, so that you personally are in control of your brand. Just like a company is in control of their brand when they decide to call their candy bar a Snickers and they create a particular kind of a logo for it and this brown wrapper that goes around it. Snickers is always a Snickers. And it means really something solid, but it didn't get there by accident. They had to work very hard and very deliberately to create that thing.
Yeah.
And so what you guys are going to have to do as you transfer from your, you know, adolescent selves into your working adult selves is learn how to control all of those things. Because it's going to mean a lot in terms of how much money are you going to make in your life. It's just the way it is.
It is.
It's also the ability to communicate is super important because believe it or not, even though we know it's important, there are a lot of people who never really get it down very well. And so companies are looking for this when they're recruiting, when they're hiring, because they're having to separate out the people who don't from the people who do. And the people who do are in really high demand. It's also, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Previous. It's also a learned ability. Like I said, it's something that we can control. We can control our use of slang. You know, when I was in college, I was a member of the students group on our campus that kind of managed ourselves like a little business, okay? And I was one of the directors of this fraternity type thing. So when we had our meetings, one of the things that we all did, because we were all pretty young, was like, all those spacers that people throw in their sentences.
Yes.
And we knew that we were going to have to break ourselves of that habit. So we'd start every meeting with an empty bowl on the table. And every time that you said, you had to put a quarter in that bowl.
Ooh.
So it cost us money. So we all became very conscious of, how am I speaking? I don't today talk in the same language that I used to when I was 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. Because I've been in the work field so long now that originally this suit that I had to put on 8 hours a day and then take off, like the language that I spoke, just kind of over time got stitched to me. I couldn't take this suit off now if I tried. Okay. So let's look at some of the things that are really important to your future employment. Like communication. It's critical. It's important in terms of your ability to get out and get a job. It's important in terms of how people evaluate your performance on the job. And it's important about, are you going to get those promotions? It's another, they call it a career sifter. Do you guys know what a flour sifter is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So if you do any baking, there's this little thing. It's kind of like a bowl that you pour the flour into, and then there's a trigger on the handle, and this trigger opens up little amounts, lets a little amount of flour fall through the bottom every time you pull the trigger. And what it's doing is it's loosening up the clumps so that you get this nice ready to mix flour, in the bowl instead of these big clumps that are a pain. That's the same thing that's happening here at work. They're using your ability to communicate as a way to sift, as a way to weed out the people they don't want from the people that they think they're going to be able to promote over time. It's really unfortunate, but it's one of those things that people judge others by. If you don't communicate well, if you don't dress the dress, if you don't look the part, they're going to immediately start to say, you don't belong here. You might belong someplace, but it's not here.
So true.
And all of us have an opportunity to learn this stuff and to control it so that you become the driver of your own destiny and not somebody else who thinks, I think you're a Godiva chocolate, right? Really expensive, great stuff. But they might think that you're a Hershey's bar. And if you're going to get paid the kind of salary that you want, you need to convince them that you're a Godiva chocolate. Godiva doesn't package itself like Hershey's does. It comes in a gold foil wrap. It's not sold in grocery stores in the checkout line. You have to go to Godiva chocolate shops to get this stuff. You're not going to pay the little amount of money that you pay for a Hershey's bar. You got to pay a certain amount a lot higher than that. Now, between you and me, there's really probably not a whole lot of difference between Godiva and Hershey's, except for the packaging and where it's sold and what they price it at. And they do all these things intentionally to convince you that this bar over here is different than that one over there.
And it works.
And it works. So do you understand the analogy that I'm trying to give you in terms of ability to communicate? and how to brand yourself. Do you guys get the analogy that I'm making?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Okay. So what are these skills that we're going to have to know? Obviously reading, right? Well, you guys wouldn't be here in a college course if you didn't have this down already. Listening. But I will tell you something. One excellent way to learn to write better and to learn to speak better is to read more.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get used to the sound of language the way it's meant to be, instead of the sound of language the way that you hear it all around you. And you only get good at something by practicing it. Anything. Do you guys do sports at all?
Yes.
What's your sport?
I play kendo. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that.
What is that? I don't know what that is, Paul.
That's like have you seen those Japanese movie with they wear armor and they hit each other with the bamboo stick?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what kendo is.
How interesting. So there's a lot of technique in that, isn't there?
Yes.
And all of those techniques that you know, you just went in the first time you took a class, one afternoon you had the whole thing down, right? Isn't that how it went down for you?
No, took a long time.
Took a long time and a lot of practice and a lot of hours, right?
Correct, yes.
So does learning to communicate well. Anything that, do you guys play music? Do you guys ever learn an instrument?
I couldn't keep a tune to save my life.
Okay. So I learned over, my life to learn to play a bunch, but again, just like kendo, not without a lot of practice. And reading is a pretty good way to at least hear what that instrument is supposed to sound like. Okay. Listening. Well, reading and listening are very related. The same point that I made about reading right now, you can make about listening. But listening is also something that goes beyond just hearing it. If I'm listening to the radio in the car, I can easily get distracted and just kind of tune it out, because I'm thinking a lot more about the road in front of me and what's happening than what I'm listening to, hopefully, right? Or otherwise I'm going to wrap my car around a pole. So listening is a skill you have to become very engaged in. And we'll talk a lot more about this later, but it's a traditional ability. Nonverbal skills, like making eye contact with people and, your posture. If you're slumped over in your chair at the office like this, and what does this suggest to you? If I'm doing this, if I was lecturing like this tonight, like this, what is this?
Lazy?
Totally lazy, right?
You're not into the class.
No, I'm not respectful of you. I'm not really here to help you. I don't care about it. Says all of those things without me opening my mouth to say word one. In fact, I could be doing this and say, you guys are super important to me, and I'm really, really, really glad to be here tonight. But which of these two things is communicating more strongly?
Oh my God.
Body language.
Totally. Do you know that over 80% of what we communicate is nonverbal? Over 80%.
That's kind of similar to first impressions.
It's exactly like, it's a huge part of those first impressions. I know that this will be really hard to believe, but when I was in college, I had super long hair. Well, I had hair, first of all, which, but like I say, hair today, gone tomorrow. But anyway, I had to lose that when I decided to go to work. Why? Because this doesn't mean that you're ready to work in the professional world. Okay? It's a very strong nonverbal message that, hey, look, if I wanted to be a rock and roller, which is actually what I was gunning for a lot of years, I was in a band. That was great. That was fine. That was actually the uniform for that career path. but it's not the career, it's not the uniform in business. So you have to look the part.
Mister, what if you did want to be in a rock band?
Why did I?
Like, would you like join a rock band? Because you have long hair, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, I was really into music and I loved to perform, and I wrote, you know, and we did a bunch of recording, and yeah, I just could think of no better life than that, you know? And back in those days, you could make a ton of money. This was before MP3 files and Napster and, you know, peer-to-peer file sharing, and all of that crushed that industry.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Did you play the guitar or
Still do.
sing or?
Yeah, yeah. I still do play. But that's for a different conversation another time. Okay, so speaking, obviously. Well, there's a different way from that we're going to use speaking in the office than the way that you might speak in the neighborhood with your homies. Like, I would never say, "Hey, Holmes," but you know, what up? That's not going to work at the office. If you said that at the office, what do you think? Are they going to think, "Wow, this guy's genius"?
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not. So
No.
So we have to learn writing, right? How well do we write? Writing and listening and reading and speaking are all intertwined. I'm telling you though, if you do a lot of this reading, you're gonna get the speaking and the writing much improved. Okay. And it depends what you're reading too. Like I would, right? You're not going to get this from reading comic books. You're not going to get this from reading, you know, weightlifting magazine or something. But if you pick up the Wall Street Journal or any business magazine, or if you listen to CNN on the radio or Fox or whatever your political persuasion is, I'm a CNN guy myself, then you're going to hear language the way journalists speak, which is proper English, which is the way that you're going to be expected to communicate when you speak at work. So what you read and what you listen to can be great training. And maybe if you're wanting to work on those things today, start doing those things. Okay. So what's the new stuff? Well, media savvy. Meaning what media? Like Web 2.0. If I say Web 2.0, do you guys know what that term means?
I don't.
Video share, Facebook, in a simple term.
Yeah, it's all of the rich media stuff. When internet first happened around 1990, 91, it basically looked like a Word document. There were no pictures originally. There was no sound. There was no streaming video. It was just dry as could be. And that was web first generation, 1.0. And then they started developing all these capabilities to the world that we know now, with all of that rich communication happening, all of that, you know, sensory stuff that we see, that stimulation that we see. That's Web 2.0. So everything that's part of that is media savvy, meaning knowing how to use all those things to the advantage of being in business. You know, for instance, Esmeralda, as you start building out this little agency of yours, social media marketing is going to be an important piece for you, you know.
Yes.
Writing blogs will be an important piece, vlogs and podcasts and webinars and all of these things.
All the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff. Good judgment on, what do you suppose I mean by good judgment online?
How people perceive you.
How people perceive me. So let's say that, you know, like most college students, like I was, I like to party a lot on the weekend. Okay. I'm telling you, I definitely had my lost weekends in Rosarita Beach. Okay. Thank God we didn't have a Facebook back in those days, because my Facebook pages would have been all full of stuff that I don't want my employer to see. What do you suppose happens as you're going through college and you're filling your stuff, you're filling your pages out with, this guy's a party animal, but now it's Monday morning after college graduation and you're sitting in somebody's office interviewing for a job and they'd already found your Facebook page.
There's several cases of that.
And kiss the job.
Sorry, say that, well, Esmeralda, you go first and then Arlene.
Sorry. There's several cases of that. I mean, there was a case in the Marine Corps. Marines, and I can't speak for all branches, but I imagine it's the same. You cannot speak against the commander-in-chief or the president. So if you make any comments on Facebook, I actually knew a Marine that got kicked out of the Marine Corps for making disparaging comments about the president.
Yeah.
He thought he was free to do so on social media.
Right. Not a good move.
Absolutely not. And that several cases of that, other veterinarians that have posted themselves hunting. A lot of people find that completely.
Ouch.
Yeah. And there's been several cases where you just have to have good judgment about what's posted, what you do, and what image you want to project.
So you're still at, in this course, it's a 100-level course. You guys are still within plenty of time to start thinking about what is your online presence like and being mindful about the kinds of things that you might post.
Yep.
If your grandma wouldn't be really happy to see that photo, don't post it. That's a great rule of thumb.
Absolutely.
So you want to have a positive image and presence. Not only does the employer think about, is this the kind of person that we want to hire, but they're also thinking, if this is the kind of person that we think it is based on what we just found on Facebook or Instagram, is this the person we want out representing us in the rest of the world? Is that the image that we want other people to think about the rest of us?
No, they don't. If you're like an employer in that company is like counting on you to like promote them, you wouldn't want them to promote like bad things, like, oh, don't go to this.
Because that branding, you're right, Arlene, because that branding thing that we just talked about in terms
they do that and this and that. No, you want to promote like the benefits of the.
That's right. The employer is trying to protect their own brand. And just like your brand personally, their brand is also composed of all interactions and all visuals and all messages that anybody ever picked up about that company or that product. So if you got, some loose cannon out there representing the company, he's also damaging the brand of the company. And companies work too hard on creating the right brand image to let that into their office. So there's been this thing called the digital revolution, right? I mean, we just talked about that in terms of this whole media savvy thing. Well, our writing matters more than ever. Why? Well, one reason in digital terms is because so many more people can see it. This past January in 21, I started a podcast that I have. It's a hoot. I really enjoy doing it. I have listeners now in 310 cities around the world. I never thought that I never thought that I'd get that done, right? I mean, I just sit here and I do it and I make it and I throw it out there and whatever happens, happens. But I'm actually reaching a lot of people now. Anytime that you put anything out there, let's say that you write an email and you zip it off to somebody. The minute you hit send, it can get to anybody. The person who received it is in full control of what they're going to do with it. And let's say that you put a blog up or a social media post up, all the people in your network are going to see it. And if they share, they can share it, they can like it. Whenever they do these things, when they engage with your post, all the people in their network can see it, and so on and so forth. So it could be that without even meaning to, your message gets out to tens of thousands, if not more, people. And they get there so fast. In 1987, I was still in college, and I went to Europe for the first time. And I spent 4 months backpacking around Europe. Funnest time of my life, okay? And I made a bunch of friends over there. And when I got back, I kept in touch with them pretty often, but we had to write letters, like longhand, writing letters, folding it up, putting it in an envelope, and it wouldn't get there for 10 to 12 days. That's how long it took. And then they would wait a while. And then, so it might be from the time that I sent a letter to the time that I got a response, could be 30 days or more. Right now, I click send on an email, and in an instant, it's around the world if I want it to be, wherever I send it. So the speed that stuff travels these days is so much faster. So we're reaching a whole lot more people, a whole lot more quickly. And then the other thing that's happening is, you know, document sharing. Do you guys work in a doc sharing situation at all? Or have you ever worked in that kind of environment?
Currently, yeah.
Okay, what do you do?
I work for a social care foundation for orphans.
Oh, that's really neat. And so what is your job, and what are you doing like that? And how do you, do this doc sharing? What kinds of things do you do?
So pretty much, I have a list of sponsors
Yeah.
that I keep track in an Excel sheet, and that's shared like live with the top managers.
Yeah.
And I have to pretty much like check with the sponsors, did they pay it? And if they pay it, I have to update that Excel sheet. That's just one job.
Wow. Okay. That's very cool. So that capability has only been something we could do, I want to say maybe 10 years. Very, very, very short time. Okay. People have been conducting business for thousands of years. So if you take 10 years over thousands of years, it's like 0.000 something, tiny little fraction of time. And yet it's fundamentally changed the way people go to work. We don't have to, all of us, be in the same office together anymore. In fact, all of last year, most people learned the lesson that they can work at home remote, and they don't ever have to go into the office or go to school for that matter, or whatever. So a lot of companies, what's happening now, it's really interesting, is a lot of companies are saying, you know what, we're going to allow our employees to stay at home and not have to come back into an office, or come into an office just some of the time. And what's going to happen over a lot of time, I don't know, maybe the next 5 years or so, I think, is that you're going to see a whole lot of companies getting rid of a lot of their expensive real estate because they don't need it anymore. Because they've got Zoom, and we've got document sharing, and we've got text and IMs and all kinds of great stuff. So it's fundamentally changing everything about how we go to work. But it also means, just like when you walk into the office and they observe your behavior and how you dress and all that, they're going to be making similar kinds of judgments about us. They're going to say, how good is this person at using the technology? You're going to have to be really good at it, or you're going to send an unintended message that I'm an idiot. You don't want to ever communicate, I'm an idiot. But that's the unfortunate thing that people will interpret. So again, you want to control your brand, you want to control your future, you have to learn this. Social media is playing a really important role these days, right? It's all about branding. It's all about, look, most companies used to spend, I mean, companies that advertised used to spend their money in super expensive ways, television, radio, print. And it cost them a fortune, and they reached an awful lot of people that they never wanted to. When we got to social media, the costs went way down, and our ability to target very specifically went way up. So companies love this, okay? But they're also using social media for lots of other things like LinkedIn. How many of you guys are on LinkedIn?
I am.
Good,
Here.
good for you. So one, or are there more?
Right here too.
Right
Two.
here.
Three. Okay, four. So about half of us tonight, at least half of us in this room. LinkedIn is not really about advertising your company, although it's certainly used that way. It's more about creating contacts that you can leverage to promote yourself, to look for a job, to increase the number of people that you know that you can network with, etc. That's another function of social media in business.
I've seen examples where like celebrities will like promote a brand and say like, oh, this helped me like, for example, lose weight or something like that, and you can like link in my bio and like go to this link to like purchase this item. Isn't it kind of similar to that? Because like it's increasing their business there.
That doesn't sound very similar.
No.
LinkedIn is like Facebook or Instagram, like a separate platform, and it's a business platform.
I'll show you LinkedIn. Seems like that might be a good idea for some of you guys. And I think if you don't have a LinkedIn page, you ought to get one. It's free. And if you start using it, you're way before graduation, you'll be in a position where you can start making connections that maybe will help you down the road. So I'm going to share my screen. I got to go back and let's see. Okay, so can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is my LinkedIn page, right? So I've done a lot of things to position my brand. Like, this is all about marketing, right? This is social media, this is search, this is networking, the internet, e-commerce, things like that. So, and that's the kind of work that I do. I'm a digital marketer, okay? And then I put my name up here. Then if you go down, all these different, this is sort of like a little portfolio. So you could come in here and see some of the work that I've done, or blogs that I've written, or podcasts that I've generated. Just opening this. So this is a whole course that I did as a podcast on social media marketing, for instance. So I just put this in so people who check out my page can see this, because it's something that I want them to know about me. Then anytime that you engage with anybody else on LinkedIn, like messages that are being passed or whatever, it goes here. This is kind of like my resume section. These are, my education stuff, ways that I volunteer, a lot about skills and people that have endorsed me for my skills. My network is here. So I've got 2,275 connections. So that's what I'm saying. So if you guys want, you can link with me, and that will give you access to all of my connections. So you could go in here and just kind of page through this and go, oh, this guy AJ, helping companies for branding and demand generation. Well, this might be something that, Esmeralda would like to talk to.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in your thing, right?
Yeah.
So, I could create an introduction for you to AJ, and then you could take over on that and start to communicate with him directly. So this is all about finding people that you think would be good for you to know professionally. You think this is important, valuable?
Oh, yes.
So I'm telling you that you guys can join with me and get access to these folks.
It's not about what you know, it's about who you know.
Well, really, it's about both. Because you can know a lot of people, but you don't know anything, then you know a lot of people who think you're a dummy. You don't want that. So, that's what LinkedIn is. So does that give you a better idea, Arlene?
Yeah, I had an idea of LinkedIn. I just thought of like Instagram because I'm usually on Instagram and I just see ads of like businesses and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
Oh yeah, those are brand deals that they do.
Yeah, and I'm like, girl, I don't have that much money.
It's also a great place to look for a job. Most companies
Yes,
these days are,
that's how I got my job.
a lot of people are advertising these days on LinkedIn for the positions that they've got open. So I'm just going to show you how this works. So all I did is I said marketing Anaheim. But look, this is performance marketing. It's all about digital. Marketing director. That could be a lot of things, but what does it say? Facebook develops online marketing activities, right? Excellent analytical skills. Google Analytics, Google optimization. Let's look at another one. Another performance marketing. That's in like the other position. Marketing director. What's in here? Keep up, let's see, strong strategic horsepower, expertise in influencer marketing, social media, digital, paid media, brand strategy, strong analytics ability, must have strong attention to detail, blah, blah, blah. So this is lots and lots and lots. Look at this. There's 40 pages of jobs just in the area around, Southern California that have been listed in here recently. And all of them, I want to tell you, like I would say 90% of them, you have to have these Web 2.0 or digital skills, even just to get an interview. So do you think learning this stuff is important?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep. Okay. So let's see. Can you guys see my PowerPoint slide?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked a lot about this. This is the other point that I've hit on a bunch of times, but here we go again. Life-changing critical judgments about people are being made based only on their writing ability. There are an awful lot of people who don't write well. But all of us can get better than we currently are at writing. That's the whole point of this class. But just like anything else, like kendo, like horseback riding, like playing an instrument, like anything, you're only going to get better if you hear what it's supposed to sound like and if you practice it all the time. Like, I imagine that when you go into, that kendo, what is it, a gym or a dojo, or what are they called?
Yes, it's dojo.
Okay, it's a dojo. So what I imagine that, especially early on, you're watching that instructor show you the way the moves are. There's an awful lot of watching and learning. And then there's a lot of practice too, right?
Yes, correct.
So there's both. So you guys have to get really immersed in this stuff to get good at it. This is what this guy Willard Marriott, he's the executive chairman of the board for Marriott International. He said, to succeed in today's workplace, young people need more than basic reading and math. They need substantial content knowledge. Content knowledge is how do you create, content is another word for the ability to create communication. And they have to have the technology skills. And they have to have advanced thinking skills. Actually, that's why I structured the class project like I did. Anybody can read a blog or a web page and then kind of write down in your own words what that page said and turn it in for a grade. But that isn't what I'm asking you guys to do. I'm asking you guys to read this information and then process it through yourself, meaning think about it And out the other end onto the paper, what did it mean to you? How does this personally strike you? What do you think about it? Now that you understand what personal values are, what are your values? Why are they important to you? Success factors. Now that you've identified what those things might be for somebody, what are yours? So that requires you to actually learn that thing and then think about it and do something with it. Flexibility to adapt and change. Oh yeah, you know what? If I think that there's been a tremendous amount of change from the time that I graduated from college, 32 years ago to now, from what you guys see in the next 30 years is gonna rock your world. I have no idea what's coming, but I can tell you that the world is gonna be significantly different in 30 years than you ever imagined it was going to be. Because the world that we're living in now looks nothing like the world that I grew up in. And the speed that that's happening is going faster and faster and faster all the time. So these even technical fields require communication skills. You don't have to be in business or marketing or whatever. You could be an engineer, but you have to be able to communicate your engineering ideas to other people. You could be a doctor, but you still have to be able to communicate to other doctors and the patients. In fact, it might be even more difficult for a doctor because that guy was trained for many years to think like a scientist. But then he meets somebody that he knows doesn't have any medical training, and he has to explain in simple terms all of the stuff that's super complicated, actually. That's really hard. How do you take this really complex thing and make it sound simple so that the person who doesn't have your background knows what you're talking about? Businesses use a lot of variety of media and messages. Professional business like writing. Doesn't matter where we start this semester, this is a huge part of your future. Let me show you how much I've improved over my career. I'll tell you in a story. This is really a pretty embarrassing story. It's kind of funny. When I started my business career, the very first company meeting I had to go to, I was asked to do a presentation. We had taken all the management and flown everybody into Phoenix, Arizona, and we're staying at this really nice hotel. And I've got to do this presentation in front of about 30, 40 people. So I go to the front of the room, and this is before PowerPoint. All we had was a overhead projector and these little clear sheets of plastic that you would lay down, with like slides printed out on them. Did you guys ever see those things? Way back in the day before PowerPoint? Well, anyway, this is what I was working with. And I'm looking around the room, and they're all smiling, and looking really happy. And I'm talking, and feeling really good about this thing. And then I finish my thing and I sit down. And then at the break, I go out in the hall, out of the meeting room, and somebody says, "Hey, Joe, you ought to check your fly." So I had stood there for about 40 minutes with my fly open and my shirt hanging out the open zipper of my fly, right? Good God. Well,
You kept everyone engaged.
Oh my God.
I would have said something,
Yeah.
but then again, it would be kind of rude.
Yeah. So that was that's my story. So it tells you how, we all improve. We all start at a pretty embarrassing low level in some skill set, and we all move forward. It doesn't where you start, doesn't matter where you start. It matters where you finish.
True.
So what are the kinds of skills that your bosses need you to have? Great oral and written. you need to be able to work in a team. Have you guys worked in teams, like either in high school or maybe other college classes that you've taken where you were doing projects, like a group project or something, group paper, something like that?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay, well, like that document sharing thing, that's another example. So it might be that your team members are physically really far from you, like maybe all over the world spread out. You still have to be able to work in a team. And we'll talk a lot about teams later. You have to have really solid social media presence, meaning no pictures of you at a wild party with a lampshade on your head, you know. Professional attitude and approach and work ethic, and the ability to think critically and analytically. So again, this class project and me going to be asking you to read certain things, and you reading those things and then writing about your experiences and what you think personally. That's the difference between, you know, mimicking somebody else's work and you thinking critically about that information and doing something unique with it. Why do you want a college degree? I'll give you one good reason right off the bat. The difference between having a high school diploma and a college diploma, a 4-year degree, will mean minimally $1 million of income over your lifetime. That's just one really good reason why you want that degree. But what else? What are the other reasons? Well, that one, higher lifetime earnings. There you go, there's your $1 million. Less unemployment. Why is this true? Because when the company is looking at having to do layoffs, if you've got more skills than other people, then the company's depending on you more to continue to move forward. If anybody could do your job, then it's going to be easy to replace you later. Look, it's a pretty unskilled position. You know, he's easy to find. Versus there are not a whole lot of, you know, Fredericks out there. We have to hold on to Frederick because he's a valuable employee. And we've taken the last 8 years of him working here to get him to the level where he's really productive for us now. We don't want to have to start that process over again later.
Absolutely agree.
Sorry?
Absolutely agree.
Yes, I figured that Frederick would. A wider variety of career options. Look, the more educated you are, the more skills you have, the more flexible you are to be able to move in a couple of different directions. So this company that I had built over 9 years, when the pandemic and then the recession came, it pretty well shut down my business, right? My clients were all really small businesses, which is why I was valuable to them, because they couldn't afford to hire a full-time marketer, but they could bring me in, you know, a few hours a week. But when those guys got hit and their business went away and some of them went out of business in this recession, I was out of customers. So when you're out of customers, you're affected out of business. So last October was the first time in 9 years that I went back working for somebody else. And I had a position for 8 months working with Cal State University Channel Islands, but it was by design a temporary position. It was to do a few things for them specifically on a contract and then be gone. So now I'm in the position of interviewing. That's why I was able to show you LinkedIn so quick and getting my resume out there. But look, I can write, I can build websites, I can produce podcasts and vlogs, and I can, you know, do graphic design. You know, I've managed a business, I can manage a budget, I can lead teams of people, so there's all these things that I've developed, one, because of my education, and two, because of my experience. So as I'm looking at jobs, I'm literally in a situation where I can say, that looks more interesting than this. I'd rather go for this one than that one, versus saying, you know, I don't know anything. What kind of job can I get? Your opportunities are really limited at that point. So right now I'm evaluating, I think one of my strongest suits to play is my ability to write well. So I'm talking to a few people about writing positions. I'm also talking to a few people about more full-on management positions. And I'm trying to figure out which way do I want to go right now. But I've got the option. The option's mine. I'm in the driver's seat. Access to the highest paying, fastest growing careers. You're going to notice that as you go from entry-level management into upper management, most corporations, if you choose to go to work for a corporation, are going to need you to have an MBA. Which means, you're going to graduate. What I did is I graduated from college and I went to work for 3 or 4 years. And then I continued to work full time. And I was taking my MBA courses at night.
Wow.
Well, and I got through it. I also had twins in the middle of that.
Wow.
And I was traveling every week. So I was reading in the hotel rooms and on airplanes and in airports and doing my homework whenever I could. And then doing all this other stuff. And then coming home on the weekends and relieving my wife of all of the hard work of raising twin infants. So life was pretty damn busy. So the challenges of the information age. Hey, do you guys want to take a break? Are you getting tired right now?
I would like one.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's
My brain kind of melted, y'all.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's take like 15 minutes. Sounds good?
Sounds great.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay, good. I'll catch you guys in 15.
Okay.
All right.
Do we leave or do we just stay
Huh,
here?
just do whatever, dude. Just you're at home. You got 15 minutes. You can go to the kitchen, get something to eat, whatever you need. Go out and get a breath of fresh air, whatever you want.
Mister, you're an MVP for that.
Professor, is it
Yes,
okay if I can ask you about something unrelated to the class?
Yeah, man.
So I would say a couple months back, I tried to start a digital marketing agency.
Yeah.
But not like, fully turn it into a business. But I was just going around, to like the mom and pop shops who didn't have a website. I found this tool. It's like an AI that just makes you a website. You just tell it what to do, upload the images, and it'll make the website for you.
You're kidding. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And it also has a tool where you just give it a name and give it what type of niche the business is.
Yeah.
And it'll just print like 100 different logos and idea names for the business.
And the AI is generating these logos?
Yeah.
That's going to put Esmeralda out of business in a hurry.
Oh man, there's so many AI tools out there now that if people found out about them, we would certainly go out of it. Like everyone would go out of business.
This is one of the things that we're going to talk about later in the semester, but there's a real concern right now that all of this artificial intelligence is going to put many people out of work, like most of the workforce. And they're wondering.
I've seen that.
Yeah, you've seen that? You've read about that or what?
Yeah, I've read about that. I read robots can like do something like in Japan. A lot of times in Japan, like there's like a hotel that's just like not a regular hotel, but it's like that determines your sleep patterns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like super advanced technology. And I'm like, oh my God.
And the kinds of jobs that they're looking at replacing, look, they're going to have AI as your lawyer. They're going to have AI as your surgeon. They're in Japan, like you mentioned, they have already got computers teaching classrooms of kids with no human teacher in the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
whack.
that's the scary future that we're heading to. Have you seen Tesla's new presentation?
No.
I've
Yeah,
seen
so
Tesla.
Elon Musk is
is
working
like,
on actual robots, like actual AI robots.
he announced it, and I was like, y'all, this is getting too Terminator. I'm not ready for that. Like,
Yeah, they actually look like Terminators, which is the scary part. But he said they're 5'8", and the maximum speed they run is like 15 miles an hour. I mean, still 15 miles an hour. That's
fast.
That's fast.
that's
What if
kind
the
of
AI
fast.
is like?
That's fast.
What if the AI is like, you know what? Maybe these humans are they're
Nah,
betas.
that's scary.
But yeah,
Like,
going back to what I originally was asking you about was I tried to do a couple of businesses, this barbershop especially, and I was gonna charge $500 for the upfront fee of making the website and $75 a month to keep the website running, and that's what I thought as well. But most businesses I was going to, they just said, oh, your prices are too high, this and this, and we don't know like if the website can maintain. So I did 2 months for free, and I was paying the fee that was for the website to keep running. But it just didn't work out. I was wondering if you have some tips maybe to like.
Oh, yeah, I think the biggest thing, is your target market. If you
Okay.
if you're hitting these really teeny tiny mom and pop businesses, those are companies that don't market themselves anyhow. And they've never thought about marketing themselves, and they have no budget to market themselves. And it doesn't matter how good of a solution to that problem you've got, they're never going to part with the money to do that.
Mm.
I learned that the hard way. So what you have to do is start thinking about maybe a couple levels up from that bottom rung. Think about companies that you think do have some amount of money.
Okay. All right.
Like auto dealerships. Those guys are advertising all the time. And if you could take that off of their, to-do list and say, hey, you've got AI that's going to do all of their social media posts for them, for instance, or advertise all of their, rebates and, all of the stuff that they're doing for $75 a month. Damn, that's a whole lot less expensive than the person that they're currently paying to do that.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's gonna be my next target niche. Because I don't know if are you around Fullerton College? Do you live around here?
Yeah, I live right off the 57 freeway.
Okay, yeah. So on not on Harbor, but on Anaheim and La Palma,
Yep.
bunch of car dealerships. That's literally what I thought when you said that. I was like, oh, they could be some good prospects.
Now, will your AI post into their social media?
No, so I've actually thought about that one time. I was thinking, what if I can just get an AI to go on Canva? Canva is just an online editing
I know what Canva is.
software, and just tell it to change, like pick a random color or brand a certain image a certain way, and then maybe write like a script to post on their Instagram. So I was thinking about that, but and it needs some thinking.
Yeah, there's something in that,
Yeah.
These guys are all doing something currently to address that situation. So what you need to find is, what can you do that's an easy substitution for them? Because you're not going into a white canvas. You're going into something where there's already something going on. So how do you replace what they have?
Okay, definitely. I'll think about that.
Yeah,
Thank you, Professor.
Good. Yeah, you betcha. Okay, let's bring it back up.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's just about the book. I looked up the amount of days for the temporary access. I am going to go for temporary access first because I don't have money right now.
But you only have 10 days, you know, you're gonna have to get that in the next 2 weeks.
Yes, I will get in the next 2 weeks. I just want to like do the temporary access first before I even like waste my money, you know?
Yeah. Good.
If that's okay.
It's good with me.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely good with me. All right, let's go on with our lecture. So, oh, I have to share my screen. So meeting the challenges of the information age. You've talked about some of this too. The technology is changing and it's changing at a faster and faster pace. We're working virtually away from our offices for lots of reasons, and it's going to become the wave of the future. So it means that rather than having a manager who's telling you what to do throughout the day or the week, you're going to have to be able to know how to manage yourself. The workforce is a lot more diverse today than it used to be. You know, and we all know what that means. There's a lot more competition, meaning that if we can have members on our teams anywhere in the world, because we're all doc sharing, then your office mate might be in Taiwan while you're here in Fullerton. So that means that if they're looking to replace somebody, or if they're hiring for a new position, that person doesn't have to be in Southern California anymore. It literally means it can be anywhere in the world. But that also means that if you yourself are trying to interview for a new job, you're now in competition with a whole lot more people than you ever were before, which means you have to be really good. There's this renewed emphasis on ethical behavior. Do you guys know the story about what happened at Enron as one example? Or do you guys know anything about a guy named Bernie Madoff?
I've heard the Enron story, but I can't quite remember it.
So Enron was a company that was, you know, had been around for decades, had done very, very well. They were, as I remember it, they were an investment banking company, and their employees had their pensions in the company. So they had all been saving towards a pension fund that would, at the end of when they retired, was going to pay them out for the rest of their lives. And the senior management in the company had encouraged all their employees to take their pension dollars and invest them in the firm.
Wow.
And then the company went bankrupt and they lost all of their employees' pensions. And when they had told the employees to bank all of their savings, invest it in the company, they knew they were going to go bankrupt.
Wow.
Now that's really unethical. There was another example like that this Bernie Madoff guy was telling you about. He was another investment guy. You give Bernie, you know, whatever money that you want to invest, and he's going to turn that money, and over time, he's going to take, like, you give him $10,000, and he's going to make sure that in the stock market, it's increasing in value over a long period of time. So he ultimately had thousands of customers. Here's the problem with Bernie. Bernie took all that money from all those investors, but never put it in the market. He put it in his own bank account and spent it. But in order to show his investors that he was giving them really solid returns from the market, he was forging all of their quarterly documents.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow.
So it came out finally It was a family-run company. His wife, his son, the day that this thing was found out by the FBI, he left the office, went home, called his wife, called his son, brought them into the same room, and spilled his beans. His son took it so hard that he went home and he put a bullet through his head.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
The wife divorced him. He spent the rest of his life in jail, but all of those people who had lost their money, they just simply lost their money. That's tragic. And there have been
A travesty.
It is. But there have been lots of examples like that in corporate America over the years.
Yep.
And this stuff has come to light fairly recently, like in the last 10 years or so.
Wow.
So leading a lot of people to say, hey, there's a lot of dirt bags out there. We have to start putting processes in place to make sure that we're running our businesses ethically. Because you can see the consequences of what happens when you don't. You know, the whole recession that we had well, did you guys ever see a movie called The Big Short?
Yeah.
That's what this is about. It's the same thing. A handful of people that managed the nation's biggest banks decided that they were going to short the system, that they were going to artificially blow the values up, and then they were all going to tank, but they were going to sell their investments right before it tanked. So the way that they did this, the way they got all these people to invest was they were giving out mortgages. I went through a divorce a lot of years ago. And when I went to buy a house right after my divorce, the guy I first spoke to for a mortgage said, hey, I can put you into a house with zero down. Not 10% of not 10% of the value down, not 20%, zero. And then over time, you know, your payments are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So a lot of people that never ever should have bought a home because they didn't have the income anywhere sufficient to afford that home went into some really sweet places. But then when they couldn't make the payments anymore and they finally got foreclosed on and forced out, thousands and thousands and thousands of foreclosures were happening all around the country, all at the same time. So this artificially growing market that a handful of bankers had created by creating these bullshit loans, the whole thing imploded on itself, but they had already gotten out of it before it did because they had done it by design.
Wow.
So the entire nation went into a deep, deep recession. A whole lot of people, families lost their jobs because when you go into a recession, it means the whole economy is really screwed. But not only the United States economy, most of the world, because we're all dependent on each other, most of the world went into a recession. All because of about 10 to 12 guys, bankers in the United States, who intentionally did this.
Wow. There's all kinds of dirtbags out there.
Yeah, real big dirtbags. Yep. So, emphasis on ethics. Flattened management hierarchy. So I mentioned that, you know, we've had periods of time where a lot of people have gotten laid off. When I first started working in the 90s, we went through one of those phases. And then, you know, in the mid 2000s, because of what I just talked about, we went through another big, massive round of layoffs nationally. And then we just did it again last year. Well, every single time that they've let people go, the corporations have found out that, hey, you know what? We don't have to replace these positions anymore. We can just run more lean than we used to. Meaning that the people who got to keep their jobs now got to do the job that they had, plus the job of the person that they let go. And then when they did the next round, they had their job and the other person's job and the third person's job. So you've got no middle management levels anymore, really flat organizations. A wide organization or a tall organization structure is you got your CEO here, and then you've got a VP level here, then you've got directors beneath them, and then you've got middle managers below that, and then you've got your line workers at the bottom, your lower level management. Maybe there's 5 layers like that. But with these rounds of layoffs, we're down to 2 or 3, not 5 or 6 or something anymore. So these jobs in the middle have just flat out disappeared, and they're not going to come back. All right. So all of this means that these are all trends, and every time that you lose somebody who is doing a job, it means that what they've done to sort of replace that person is they develop new technology to come in and fill the void. When I first started working in management, again, 1990, let's say, my first job, I already had a secretary. I haven't seen anybody have a secretary in at least 15 or 20 years. That whole career path pretty much is gone, doesn't exist anymore. Okay. So what have they done? Well, Word and Excel and PowerPoint and all of this stuff. It means that the managers who used to dictate into a tape recorder and then give the cassette tape to their secretary who would sit out there in the hall and type it up for them. This is what I did originally. We just got really good ourselves at doing all this stuff. But that's technology. That was the beginning of the wave of all the, like we see AI now.
Or outsourced.
Yeah, outsourced to the Philippines, outsourced to, third world countries.
VAs, virtual assistants.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Fiverr.
There you go.
Send it out to Fiverr, pay $5, get it done.
Yeah, have somebody who will, do a logo for a company. And look, when I do logos for clients, I do them for anywhere between $1,500 and $2,500 for a logo. When Fiverr does it, they'll do it for 25 or $50.
Yep. Yep.
Now, there's a whole world of difference between the strategy and the thinking that goes into what I do, that the other person didn't, have any thought into, and they didn't really put half of the, all the strategy into it that I would. But the guy who's going to do that, make that purchase from Fiverr isn't looking for that.
Yeah.
They just want something.
Yes.
Which is why, the question that I got a few minutes ago, about, there was, there's a business and, wants to go out and sell artificial intelligent built websites and, managing the sites once they're built for $75 a month. Brilliant idea. But if you're talking to the wrong level of customer, they're not going to be willing to pay for it. That's still too much money for them. So if you're trying to sell a certain, level of a project and you want a certain dollar that you should be able to command for that, then you got to look at the right customers. And every time Fiverr or somebody else comes along, it makes it more difficult for the rest of us.
Yes.
For a lot of years, websites were built from the ground up. You had to know, PHP and HTML and CSS, and these are all coding languages, right? Plus more. Now people go out and get Squarespace or Wix, or you can do some pretty nice websites on WordPress these days without having to know really anything. And so these jobs that people would have paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for before are now plug and play, build it yourself, and a lot of jobs are going away because of it.
Yeah. All those funnel builders too.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yep. Okay, so we talked about listening a minute ago. So let's talk about this and talk about building our listening skills here. All right, because this is something that we all have to get really good at. Now, listening is different than hearing. How would you explain that for me, somebody? What do I mean by listening is different than hearing?
I would say that hearing, you're just hearing the sounds, but listening, you have to be active and process what you're hearing.
Yep.
Like understanding.
Yes.
Right. So it takes a lot more participation on the part of the listener to do that. A lot more effort put into it. A lot of us start off as pretty bad listeners. When I'm at the end of my day, or when I'm preoccupied with something, you guys, I'll admit I kind of stop listening, and people know it. If I start, yeah,
Your eyes glaze over.
my eyes glaze over, and pretty much the people who know me well know that I've checked out. Okay. Can any of you guys relate to that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Ask my kids.
Yeah, the lights are on, but there ain't nobody home.
They know when I start going, yeah,
Yeah, mom's not listening right now,
mm-hmm.
but we can all get better at this. You know, we listen at only 25 to 50% of our capability. We could take in so much more information than we actually do. And when you think that most of us only use 10 to 15% of our total mental capability,
That's insane.
it's insane. Most of us don't engage our brains at anywhere near the level that we could. These brains that we have, they are super sophisticated computers.
Yep.
They just really are. This is true too, right? Now you're telling me about your kids. Poor listening affects, well, personal relationships and professional relationships, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, what happens with you and your kids when they figure out that mom's checked out?
They go do things on their own. The next thing I know, I smell burning.
Uh-oh. Yeah, Johnny just burnt down the barn. Oh shit.
Yeah, I better listen.
Yeah, you better. And so you can also get some pretty bad errors, because let's say that you've got somebody who reports to you and you've got a lot going on that day, a lot of conflicting deadlines. You had a meeting this morning with an important client and the meeting didn't go well. And so now you've got this person who reports to you coming in, and you're just not there, and you approve them to go do something that they thought was a good idea, but in your seniority and your maturity in your job, you could see was going to be a problem. Yeah. So they go out and they do this thing that ends up costing the company money, and it's money that was wasted that you should have caught. If you had been the goalie that you need to be sometimes, that puck never would have gone in the net. Yeah. So what are these barriers? Well, there's physical barriers. What do you suppose, let's say in an office situation, might be an example of a physical barrier?
Wow, I can't think of any.
A wall.
A wall, yeah, absolutely. Let's say that you've got a small company, communication styles are pretty relaxed. So you go, hey, John's in the other room. Hey, John, what do you think about yada, yada, yada? So John's the other side of the wall, and he misunderstood what you said. So he says, I think that's a terrible idea. And what you had said was, hey, John, what do you think if I give you a 15% annual raise this year? That didn't go so well. Okay, so that's a good example, a wall. Psychological barriers. What could that be? Marcellus, I haven't heard from you tonight. Why don't you give me an idea for what you think a psychological barrier might be?
They can't like think, comprehend. There's something blocking.
So what? So give me an example.
You're crazy. I don't know.
Well, it could be. Yeah. 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 You have the cookie has slid off the cracker. Yep. Let's say that maybe you don't have to be crazy. Let's say that you're just you're tired. That's a psychological barrier. You didn't sleep last night. Maybe you're me 23 years ago, and your infants didn't sleep last night. So you spent the night up and down, holding the babies, walking them around, giving them the bottle. You were up all freaking night. And now you have to go to work in the morning and be productive. That's a psychological barrier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
What about, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm going to back up. I want to hear your question.
So about, according to the book, one psychological barrier would be the language or different cultural stuff. Like
Yes.
in my case, it was very difficult for me to listen to people and understand what they were saying at the beginning. And for me, that was one of the biggest barriers I had.
Yes. That's a great example. So not only language that way, you said cultural, which is great. Culture also has a lot to do with the way that you interpret not just language, but all kinds of things in the world that you live in. Let's think about color, for instance, like nonverbal cues. When we go to a funeral, what color do people normally wear? Let's say that your spouse passed away from an illness and you're at the funeral. What color are you wearing?
Black.
Black.
Black. Now, let's say that you're a 23-year-old girl getting married. You show up at the church. What color are you wearing?
White.
Because those things signify something, right?
Yes.
Black means you're in mourning, and white is having to do with virginity, right? That's why we wear white? Okay.
Yeah.
In Japan, the color meanings are just the opposite. White is the color that you use to represent you're in mourning.
Oh.
So if you're somebody from Japan showing up to a wedding in Southern California and you didn't know what to expect, and you see the bride show up at the end of the church and she's all in white, what do you think that person's going to interpret that as?
Who died?
Who died? So it means that we have to understand the backgrounds that people come from in order to communicate well with them.
Yeah.
Just one example. And there's the language problem you just talked about. Language is let's go back to that example. You've got somebody for a foreign country who knows the English that he or she was taught in school. You know, when they teach a foreign language, and do you guys ever study foreign languages like in college or high school or anything? Not college, but we were in.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, they taught you formal language, right? They didn't teach you street language, did they?
Mm-mm.
So if you're used to speaking mainly in street language, and you've got somebody from a foreign country who you're hanging out with for the day, and that's the way that you're talking, and you're not bothering to adapt to their information needs or the communication needs that they have, how's that going to go?
Pretty bad.
Really badly. Nonverbal distractions. Well, let's say that you and I are having a conversation and you've got something that's really important to you that you're sharing with. And as you're talking to me, I kind of do this, kind of turn my back, kind of slouch in my chair, maybe I, get up and I walk over and I pour myself a cup of coffee, and am I showing you that I really am concerned about what you have to tell me right now?
No, if
No.
anything, it just wants me to stop.
Yeah, you would just give up, wouldn't you?
Yep.
So those are all very strong nonverbal ways of saying, I don't really care what you have to say, and I don't really care about you. So the person who's trying to communicate is going to be very distracted by that, probably even lose their place in what they wanted to say, and maybe just give up altogether, because what's the point?
Yep.
And now that's a really extreme example of, but you could simplify that and bring that way back in again and still get the idea that it's easy to send bad cues to somebody because you're not thinking in the moment and you're not present with them right now in that conversation, right?
Yes.
This thing, thought speed. We talked about, we only listen to about 25 to 50% of our ability to listen. If we're not listening, what are we doing?
You're thinking of what they're saying.
Or what are we
Spacing off.
very likely
Or
think?
spacing off. Like
Yeah,
you can have
spacing.
like a glazed look and you're like, what are you saying? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Or have you ever found yourself in that situation where you stop listening to the other person because you're already thinking in your mind what your response is going to be?
Oh yeah.
You've decided how their sentence is going to end before they've ended it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, I know what you're gonna say.
That's because
And you,
we can think so much faster than we can speak. And let's think about the process of communicating a message. A thought, an electrical synapse in your brain occurs like that. It just fires, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's your thought. But you decide that you're going to communicate that. So you have to take this thing that might have been a brief picture flash in your mind, whatever triggered it, whatever kind of a thought it was. Then you have to go back and go, okay, what was that thought? And what are the best words to communicate that thought? And then you have to actually do the motor skills to make your tongue and your mouth move to communicate that thought.
yeah, I've had a situation when I entered my math class and I had to talk to the teacher. And then I entered the class, I'm like, what was I gonna say to you?
Yeah,
And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, wait, let me think.
I've done that many times.
Well, that sounds like my husband right there.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have had moments where I've been like really distracted or worried about something, and I'm walking around the house and I've been holding something in my hand, but a long time ago I stopped thinking about whatever it was that's still in my hand. And now I'm thinking, well, I can't leave the house until I find my wallet. Where's my wallet? And I'm walking and the goddamn wallet's in my hand.
Yeah.
That's pretty embarrassing, So thought speed is we think really, really quickly. I said we probably only use 10 to 20% of our mental capacity. So we think really quickly, but we can't communicate in any amount of that time. So while we stop listening because we've already got our own thought and we want to get our own thought out and
Mm-hmm.
and you tuned out of what they were saying a while back, right?
Yeah.
Faking attention.
Us women are great at that.
Yes. I'm not going to go anywhere near where I could go with that. So. But faking attention, yes. What do you suppose grandstanding is? You guys ever heard this term before, grandstanding?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Grandstanding is, let's say that you are the leader of a team at work. And there's a decision that your team has to make. You're the leader of the team and you think you already know how you want this decision to go and what direction things should move in. But you read someplace that employees like it when they contribute their own input to the decision that's being made. You've heard that it builds morale, it gives people a better sense of ownership of their job, they like feeling involved in things. So you have this meeting where you pretend to receive their input. And then you go off and you do whatever you were going to do anyway, after giving that your team the pretend exercise of actually helping you make the decision. That's grandstanding.
Okay.
Have you ever experienced that? Anybody doing that, or kind of did you ever suspect maybe that was happening?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was in the Marine Corps. Come on.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And I imagine that you weren't a general.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, darn phone. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're good there. I think it's getting pretty good on time. We're gonna go one more slide tonight, and I'm gonna let you guys finish the chapter off on your own this week. Sounds good?
Sounds great.
Okay, we'll go one more and then we'll close it off. Before we do, I'm gonna ask you guys if you've got any questions, maybe you wanted to bring up earlier and you didn't get to or whatever. But let's look at, okay, 2 more slides. We got to through all 10 of these. But we've just taken a look at the things that get in the way of communicating or listening. These are ways that we can improve our listening skills. The first one is shut up. Stop talking and let other people speak. Sounds simple, but it takes discipline. It takes respect, and it takes you being aware that you're stepping on somebody else's communication, You want to control those distractions, those external and internal ones. Like, all these things, right? Some of these were internal, some of these external. Be receptive and keep an open mind. Now, this manager that's doing this grandstanding activity, this pretend meeting where he's pretending to get the input from his team, is that guy being receptive? Is that guy open-minded?
Oh no. He already made up his mind.
He made up his mind before he got to work this morning. He probably made up his mind before he invited the team to the meeting. This piece here is so important when it also comes to students and note-taking for classes. A lot of students, when they're taking notes, feel like they have to write every single word down that the professor says. That's not it, really. The point is, on this, if you had just copied down whatever I just said right now, you would have probably written down a paragraph. But the point is, 4 words, listen for main points. So it means that you have to, as you're listening, you have to be constantly thinking about, okay, what is his point here? And what is his point here? And how do I take that point and make a note about it? When you summarize it in your head and you make a short note on your piece of paper, later on, when you go back to that note, if you do it soon enough, everything that went along with the note that you took is going to come back in your head. But if you spend the whole lecture furiously writing down every single word, you're too busy writing to be listening for the main points. So it's about listen close and careful and try to figure out what the major points are, both in a one-to-one situation and as a student in a classroom. Like, do you guys ever see the movie West Side Story? Or did you ever see the play of Romeo and Juliet? Same story, actually.
Yes.
Yes.
So 2 hours, lots of things happen. Essentially, it goes like this. Guy meets girl. Guy and girl like each other. Guy and girl have opposing friends. Things get screwed up. Boy dies. Girl commits suicide. That's the story. That's Romeo and Juliet. That's, you know, West Side Story, okay? Now, if I could take hours to write down everything that happens, but I'm listening for the main points here. That's the idea I want to get across. Like that whole movie, it's 2 hours, but it's only 5 or 6 things that happen in the story. Capitalize on lag time. So lag time is the time between, you know, when the first person who's communicating ends their statement and you have a chance to respond. The time in between. Sometimes we feel like if there's any silence at all in this conversation, things aren't going well. But the real point here is if you let things just be quiet for a minute and you think about what that other person just communicated before you start running your mouth, the communication is going to be a whole lot better. You don't always have to be on the, you know, be right there on top of it with something to say, you know, right as the other person shuts their mouth. I think giving something time to settle and you think about it and be sure about what you're going to say before you say it. When you ultimately do speak, you're going to come off as a whole lot more thoughtful than maybe you would have the first time around. More respectful. You're probably going to communicate it more effectively. I mean, all around, it's just better. So the point with number 5 is let there be some space in between the conversation. Let some daylight in. Okay. One more slide.
I'm kind of surprised that they're, oh, okay, there's more.
No,
Never mind.
you go ahead. What was your point you were going to make?
Oh, I was just gonna say that for lag time, I like to repeat what the other person said in my own words.
Totally. And that's a great example. They call that, that's repetition, right? That's paraphrasing. And the way that you do that is something like this. And somebody just said something pretty complicated. And so you might say, hey, let me make sure I understood that. So what you're saying is blah, 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 right?
Yes.
And actually, that's excellent in communication, because if there was any misunderstanding, it's going to be identified right there and then. And it's going to have the person who really wanted to communicate the point an opportunity to know that it wasn't successful and that they're going to come after it again until they get it right. Because otherwise, we start building this, say it's leading towards a decision. We start building something that ultimately is going to collapse because the foundation's really weak to begin with.
Yeah.
Listening between the lines. What does that mean?
Basically paying attention to what wasn't said.
Yep. Yeah. What wasn't said. And that's really important because it's about subtlety. A lot of times, if it's a difficult message to communicate, people want to communicate it in a way that's not going to offend or hurt the other person. So they're going to go all around whatever that communication is without actually coming out and saying it. If the person who's receiving the message is sensitive and thinking about what the other person's trying to communicate, it'll work. But to do that, you have to empathize. They have to put themselves in the other person's place and think about what is this person really trying to say. We judge ideas and not appearances. As much as I said that the world is going to judge you at work based on, you know, do you look the look? Do you behave the expected way? Do you have the skills they want you to have? We ourselves should always be guarding against doing that, because looks can be deceiving. So we don't, you know, it's like, don't shoot the messenger, right? You've heard that before?
Yes.
Take what the idea is, let that come in without judging the person who brought the idea in. Just look at the thing itself. Another way to say this is, it's just business, it's not personal. Okay? Avoid interrupting. Now, a couple of times, and I'll apologize right now, I know that I stepped on a couple of you guys this evening already, and I had to catch myself. So I apologize. So we want to avoid interrupting. Be sure that the other person has completed what they were going to say before you jump in. And this is a weakness that I know I have. We, you know, and which is another part of getting better at listening, is being able to identify in yourself what areas you know need work. Take selective notes. That's what we talked about a minute ago, you know. What is the main point going on here? And then finally, the feedback and confirmation, the thing that, you know, we just spoke about. Let me paraphrase that. I want to make sure I got your point. That if we can do these 10 things or work on these throughout the semester, you guys are going to leave this class in 4 months much better at communicating than when you walked in before tonight's lecture. There's more in this chapter, you guys, but it's getting late and I want to let you go. Do you guys want to share anything with me before we do? Any questions or thoughts?
I've been sharing a lot, so I'm good.
You have been, and I like that. You keep it up.
Me as well, but you answered pretty much all of them.
Good. All right,
I'm
you
good.
guys. Good.
I'm also good.
Awesome. Well, did you like tonight's class?
I did.
Yeah, you're funny,
Wonderful.
Master.
Right on. Good. So then I'll see you guys next Tuesday night. Make sure you get into Mindtap and get those assignments done. They're due Monday night next week at 11:59 p.m. It'll
Okay.
always go like this. You'll get your assignments on Tuesday, and they'll be done. They'll be due the Monday evening before our next meeting. It's always that schedule.
Sounds great.
All
Sounds
right, you
good.
guys. Really enjoyed meeting you guys tonight. I really did. And we're going to have fun this semester.
Same. Thank
Let's
you.
Likewise.
do it.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Good to
Alright.
see you all.
Yep.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night, y'all.
Bye.
Good
A
night,
good
y'all.
night's sleep.
All right. See you.